spit on the Bible with pure disrespect, letting the saliva run all over the holy cover, and yelled out with an arrogance that bounced off the whole plaza, "God does not exist." And then, as if he was trying to challenge the heavens, he stomped on the word right in front of everyone, crushing the pages like they were worthless dirt. The crowd in Nigeria froze up. Some folks giggled nervously, others backed away, scared that something awful was going to happen, and a lot of them just stared in silence, not believing what they were seeing. For a second, I figured it was just another taunt, just another empty insult like so many I've seen on the streets. But I was dead wrong, because what came next, oh my God, what went down right there made the whole crowd drop to their knees, like some invisible wind had just taken over the place. My name is Elias Montero. I'm a street evangelist, a son of the Sierra Sertón, and on that muggy Sunday in the avenues of Abuja, I lived through something I'll never forget. A lot of people know me today preaching in the plazas of Nigeria, but few know the real story about who I am and what brought me here. I grew up in a home so simple the sound of the rain felt like it came right through the roof. My mother, a woman with faith as tough as the cracked ground we walked on, she prayed every night with her calloused hand on my head, asking, "Lord, protect my children from poverty, from injustice, and from the hands of the wicked." Back then, I didn't get how powerful those words were. I just wanted to mess around in the street, forget the hunger, escape the fear that hung around our house. But those prayers done through tears and hope were putting up an invisible shield that would save my life years later, literally. When I hit 22, I left everything behind and ended up in Africa, all by myself, with a ripped-up backpack and my mother's voice ringing inside me. I worked under suns that burn your soul, slept in tiny rooms, faced dangers nobody can imagine, and I carried a deep emptiness inside me that seemed like it had no end. And it was in that emptiness, in a stuffy room in Abuja after one exhausting day, that I collapsed on the floor and whispered, "If you exist, God, show me why I'm still breathing. Brother, sister, I'm telling you from the bottom of my heart, God heard me. God always hears." And on that day when a guy stomped on the Bible to mock God, heaven answered. What you're about to see isn't some made-up tale. It ain't an exaggeration, it's a real testimony of the power that comes down when someone tries to go up against the one who never loses a fight. Stick with me till the end, because this story is going to shake your faith and relight something inside you that might have gone out. And before we keep going, if this message has already touched your heart, subscribe to the channel right now, hit that bell, and walk this testimony with me. With every video you'll see that God is still moving, God is still speaking, and God is still surprising us. The heavy Nigerian heat felt like it was sticking to your skin that Sunday when everything started. But before I tell you what happened there, in that moment that made a whole crowd tremble, I gotta take you back a few steps so you understand why I knew right away that this wasn't just some regular diss. I come from the interior of Sierra, from a little house so small that when it rained the clouds felt like they were coming into the living room. My mother, with her working hands, she'd kneel down by the bed every night and pray like she was holding up the entire world with her voice. I could still smell the cheap soap while she said, "Lord, watch over my son, free him from poverty and the evil that circles this world." I didn't get any of that back then. I just wanted to play outside, forget the hunger and the fear. But those prayers became the invisible foundation that held up my every step in the years that followed, even when I thought God had ditched me. When I turned 22, I left everything behind and crossed borders just to survive. I did construction work under a sun that seemed to spit fire. I washed dishes in greasy restaurants where the oil smell clung to my clothes. I slept in damp rooms shared with strangers. And the harder I fought to survive, the bigger the emptiness inside me got. A dark hole that nothing could fill. It was like life was just trampling over me, tearing off pieces, and I could barely breathe. Until one day, totally wiped out, I fell to my knees in a stuffy little room and said, almost soundless, "If you exist, God, show me why I'm still alive." That night, I had a dream. It wasn't just some normal dream. It was like someone called my name, like a hand lifted me up and said, "Get up. I have something for you to do." I woke up shaking, crying, and for the first time in years, I felt peace. That's how I started on the streets, preaching to people I didn't know, holding an old Bible a missionary gave me. Some people made fun, others turned away, but some felt what I felt, that God was still talking, still touching, still calling broken people like me. And it was during one of those sermons that I found him. the man who would turn that day into a huge turning point. He walked up laughing, snatched the Bible out of my hand, and spitting on it yelled, "God does not exist," before throwing it on the ground and stepping on it. The whole plaza stopped cold. The air got thick, like the sky itself had shut its mouth to watch. And before I could react, a strange wind swept across the place. It wasn't a hot wind, not a natural one. It was something that made people take 2 steps back, like an invisible presence had just come down right there. I saw his face change. I saw the arrogance disappear and fear take its place. He clutched his chest, stumbled, and fell to his knees like something had gone right through his soul. That guy, who seconds before was laughing at the word, was now shaking, crying, begging for forgiveness. And while everyone was looking, totally confused, he said something that gave me chills. I saw someone behind you. I knew it. I felt it. God had answered. And that was just the beginning. People started moving closer slowly, like they were afraid to step on that bit of ground marked by the presence of something bigger than them. The man was still on his knees, his hands trembling, his eyes wide open like someone who saw the impossible. He was looking at me, but it seemed like he was seeing something beyond that, something I couldn't even see myself, only feel. The whole plaza was silent, like time had stopped so everyone there could witness what happens when the supernatural touches the earth. I slowly bent down, picked up the crumpled Bible from the ground, dusted it off, and felt my heart hammering so hard it felt like it would burst out of my chest. In that moment, my whole past flashed back like lightning. My mother praying, the hunger, the fear, the emptiness, the dream, the calling. It all made sense. God doesn't waste pain, He doesn't throw away tears, and right then, He was writing a page in front of hundreds of people that nobody would ever forget. The man tried to talk, but the words wouldn't come out. When he finally managed, he muttered through sobs, I saw someone behind you. A light. Something I can't explain. Some women started crying. Men put their hands on their heads. Children hugged their mothers. I knew this wasn't about building me up. It wasn't about me. It was God's answer to all the mockery, to every offense, to every wounded heart that thinks He's silent. Because God speaks, God acts, God steps into the story when no one expects it. And it was right there, on that hot ground in Abuja, that the arrogant atheist changed right in front of everyone. He put his forehead to the dirt and said with a choked voice, "If God is here, I don't want to fight Him anymore." And brother, sister, seeing a hard heartbreak like that is witnessing a miracle that hugs your soul. While I was praying for him, I felt a hand touch my shoulder. When I turned around, it was an old Nigerian woman, crying like someone who recognized something almost forgotten. She said, "I've been praying for you for over 20 years, and today God showed me why." At first I didn't believe it, but when she told me she had met my grandmother in Brazil decades ago, and that the two of them prayed together for God to raise someone from our family for the nations, my legs nearly gave out. What happened that day wasn't just a miracle with an atheist. It was the proof for 2 women of faith who, separated by oceans and years, planted a seed that bloomed right there, in front of a kneeling crowd. And now, let me tell you something straight from my heart to yours. If this story touched you, if it made your chest burn, if it made you think of someone who prayed for your life, don't let this message just pass by like it's just another video. Hit that subscribe button right now, because every subscription helps keep this ministry going and takes testimonies like this to thousands of people who need to feel God's touch. Don't wait. Don't put it off. Subscribe now, join this community, and walk with me while God keeps writing stories the world can't explain. When the crowd started to get it together, something was still hanging in the air. It wasn't just emotion. It wasn't just shock. It was like everyone there had been touched differently. Some were crying quietly. Others held their hands up, not daring to lower them. And there were those who couldn't seem to leave the spot, like their feet had grown roots in the ground of that plaza marked by God's glory. The man who'd spit on the Bible minutes earlier was still on his knees, breathing deep like someone trying to put his soul back together after being run through by something bigger than himself. I knelt down next to him and felt the warm ground under my fingers, but at the same time a soft breeze touched my face, a breeze that didn't match the heavy weather in Abuja. It was like God was saying, "I'm still here," and that feeling went through my body in a way I can't explain. Only remember, when that man lifted his face, I saw in his eyes not just regret, but a deep thirst, a hunger for something he'd spent his whole life denying. He held onto my arm tight like I was the only anchor left to keep him from sinking and whispered, "I want to change. I don't want to be who I was until today." And in that instant, I got that I wasn't just looking at a supernatural miracle, but at a brand new start, not for me, but for him. Life sometimes takes everything from us, leaves the soul in pieces, makes us fight against God without realizing it. And when we finally break down, when the heart falls apart, God doesn't step on the shards, he rebuilds. That's what happened with him. That's what happened with me. Maybe that's what's happening with you. The elderly woman who had put her hand on my shoulder came closer again, wiping her tears with a white handkerchief. She looked at the man still kneeling and said something that stuck with me forever. Sometimes God lets us fall to the bottom just to make the light shine brighter. That hit me deep in my chest like an old truth I already knew but needed to hear again. Her whole life had been marked by prayers, waiting, losses, and faith, exactly like my grandmother's. And in that random meeting, between 2 continents and 2 generations, I got that faith stitches stories together with invisible threads. Nothing is random. Nobody hits rock bottom alone, and nobody gets out without God lending a hand. While we were praying, more people came, surrounding that man, forming a circle that seemed to breathe as one. Every face carried a story, a pain, a struggle. Moms worried about their kids, men tired from the hard life, young people trying to figure out their purpose, all there, holding hands, feeling the same presence that had changed that atheist. And looking at that crowd, I realized something I needed to share with them and with you. The supernatural doesn't only happen in old stories, it happens today. It happens now. It happens when we least expect it. And before we move on to the next part of this testimony that ain't over yet, let me ask you for something important. Don't leave this video without subscribing. This channel exists to strengthen your faith, to remind you that God is still active, still healing, still changing impossible hearts. Click on subscribe now, because every new subscriber is one step closer to spreading these messages to those who have lost hope. The plaza quieted down slowly, but there was no way to deny that something deep had happened there. Something that wouldn't stay stuck just on that African soil. Because what God does always echoes beyond the moment. As I looked at that man still sitting there, his eyes swollen from crying, a quiet certainty took over my heart. Nobody leaves the same after being touched by the supernatural. And then, almost without realizing it, I started watching the people around us. Every face, every look, every expression carried a weight that went way beyond that episode. And that's when I understood something that maybe you listening to me now need to understand too. A lot of people are living on the edge, carrying such deep pain that it's not always visible to human eyes. How many people walk by us smiling, but are carrying a storm inside? How many wake up with a tired heart just trying to survive one more day? How many are one step away from giving up, just waiting for God to show them some reason to keep going? The broken atheist at my feet wasn't just some character that afternoon. He was a symbol of all of us. Because at the end of the day, everyone has a moment where they step without realizing it on things that should be sacred. A moment where anger, exhaustion, or pain talk louder than faith. Maybe you've been there yourself. Maybe you reached the point of saying, "God, I can't take this anymore." Maybe you felt like your faith wore out, that your prayers aren't going up, that heaven got distant. And it's exactly in those moments that the Spirit of God does what he did there in Nigeria. He walks in without asking for room. He touches where no one else touches. And he shows that even when you mess up, he's still standing up for you. While I was praying with that crowd, I realized something even stronger. No pain is wasted. No tear is invisible. No night is so dark that God can't see it. I remembered my mother, her hands on my head, the prayer choked out between tiredness and hope. And I realized that a lot of people there also had someone praying for them. Maybe it was a grandma, maybe a mother, maybe someone who's even gone already, but whose prayers are still alive. And I wondered how many of them knew they were only breathing because of prayers they never heard. And just the same, I wonder now how many times you are held up by prayers you can't even imagine, or how many times you are called to be that voice that holds someone up. That scene made me think hard about something that changed my journey. Faith isn't about feeling, it's about sticking with it. It's about getting up even when the world is crashing down inside you. It's about taking that broken part of your soul and handing it over to God, saying, "I can't do this alone, but you can." And if that atheist, arrogant, hard, cold could be reached by grace in the blink of an eye, why do you think God can't reach you right where you are? Why doubt that he can touch your mind, your family, your health, your emotional life. Why think your struggles are too big for the one who made the wind silence an entire plaza? So before we keep going with this story, take a deep breath and do what a lot of people there did naturally. Close your eyes for a second. It doesn't matter if you're on the bus, in your room, at work. Just let this moment be yours. Say something simple to God your own way. Lord, I don't want to walk alone anymore. If you're here, touch my heart too. Sometimes a single honest sentence opens doors that years of pain tried to close. And this story is living proof of that. When the crowd started to break up, there was still a respectful silence hanging over the place. A silence that didn't come from fear, but from the awareness that everyone there had witnessed something beyond human logic. The man who minutes earlier had spit on the Bible was sitting next to me, breathing slowly like he was trying to put back together the pieces of a soul he never knew how to fit. He told me, his voice cracking, that his anger wasn't against God. It was against the pain he had carried since childhood. Absent father, sick mother, hunger, abandonment, all that turned into hatred, and the hatred became a wall where faith couldn't get in. And in that moment, as he poured his heart out, I understood something that maybe you also need to hear today. A lot of the fights we face aren't against people, but against old wounds that no one ever dealt with. Every tear he shed showed layers of resentment. Every pause in his gaze showed a past he tried to bury. And that's why that wind that touched the plaza wasn't just a divine sign. It was an invitation for him, for the first time in his life, to let God into the place where the pain ruled. We prayed together, and when he got up, his shoulders looked less heavy, like part of the weight he was carrying had finally found rest. I saw something in his eyes that I hadn't seen for a long time. Hope. That man who'd been mocking the sacred minutes ago was now asking God to guide him. And as we walked toward the exit, I realized that the real change hadn't just happened in him, it had happened in all of us. People who were watching from far away before were now coming closer, asking for prayer, asking for direction, asking for strength to keep going. And as each one of them shared their hurts, I felt that this episode wasn't some isolated miracle. It was a reminder that God keeps writing new stories in lives that seemed lost. Maybe that's why you're hearing this testimony now. Maybe there's something inside you that needs to be fixed. Maybe there's a scream stuck in your soul for years, asking for answers that never come. Maybe there's an emptiness you tried to fill with effort, with work, with distractions, but it's still there, the same size. So, before I wrap up this testimony, I want you to stop for a second and breathe. Think about the areas of your life where you need God to touch you. Think about the questions nobody answered. Think about the wounds you hide even from yourself. The presence that changed that atheist isn't stuck in a plaza in Nigeria. It can come right now into the spot where you are. Close your eyes if you can and say honestly, Lord, talk to me. I'm listening. Sometimes that's all he needs to start a new chapter in your story. And if this video spoke to you deep down, if it woke something up in your heart, if it brought clarity, peace, or a desire to get closer to God, I want to give you something special. A lot of people spend their lives praying, waiting for answers, but they mix up God's silence with distance. Others think they're hearing God's voice when they're really hearing fear, anxiety, or their own wounds. That's why I put together the ebook, How to Know If God is Speaking, 7 Secrets to Hearing the Divine Voice. With so much care. This material isn't just some digital book. It's a spiritual tool to open your inner ears, calm your heart, and teach you how to figure out God's voice in the middle of life's noise. For less than 10 cents, you take a real step to change your spiritual walk, and you also help this channel keep bringing the word to thousands of people who need it. The link is pinned in the comments and in the description. Take this opportunity with faith, love, and courage. And remember, when everything looks hopeless, honest faith and prayer make the God of miracles happen in your life. May He bless you, and I'll see you next time.